I guess that's how you dress Normcore, but how do you design Normcore? Let's talk about Normcore, one of the most, if not the most, minimalist, almost aggressively simple design styles. I'm going to show you exactly what the Normcore style is, its 4 main characteristics, and tell you the best use cases for where you should be using it. And if you're not familiar with it and don't know what I'm talking about, you're going to be annoyed if you haven't been already using it for these use cases. But first, where did it come from? Normcore as a cultural idea started in fashion, but like all big cultural ideas, it's built into graphic design, branding, and advertising. So if you heard Normcore and immediately thought of fashion, you're not wrong. It's the plain jeans, New Balance sneakers, and white t-shirt of graphic design. It takes all the flash, all the decoration, all the designy aspects of design out of design. What you're left with is something so plain and straightforward that it stands out. We like to think of it as the little brother or maybe the cousin of utilitarian design. Normcore shares the same DNA, but it's not quite the same. Utilitarian design often feels industrial or technical. Normcore has a bit of the same industrial flair, but it's even more stripped back. It's deliberately anti-style, and that's the whole point. And as for why it started, it was a reaction against standing out. It followed this idea that there are so many people trying to stand out that it's impossible to stand out, and trends become impossible to keep up with. So Normcore design pushed back against that. Now let's break it down. What makes Normcore what it is? I'm gonna go over the 4 main areas: fonts, layouts, visuals, and color. Once you understand these, you'll be able to easily recreate the look for yourself, especially because I'm going to show you examples of fonts you can use for free. Plus, I'll show you some visual resources you can use as reference images or inspiration for whatever it is you're looking to make. First up, fonts. Sans serif dominate here, okay? They're neutral, unassuming, and easy to read. Helvetica, Arial, and Universe are the heroes of Normcore. And here's the wild thing. Some of the biggest brands in the world have leaned into this. There's an article in iMagazine that describes the rise of Normcore fonts and logo redesigns. So, think about how lots of brands lately have updated unique custom lettering to plain sans serif word marks. Burberry, Balenciaga, PayPal. Some people call this boring, others call it modern or minimal, but either way, it's everywhere. Next is a layout. If utilitarian design loves its grids and order, Normcore plays it a little looser. The layouts often feel random, like someone just typed into a Word document and hit print. The layout largely has to do with how the fonts are used. They're often crammed together in different sizes, stacked vertically, or spread out across a page with no real hierarchy. It's the look of plain text documents, receipts, ID labels, and manuals. But in this case, it's a very intentional key part of design. That default look is the goal. Then we have visuals, or in many cases, the lack of visuals. But a really quick note, if you haven't hit the like button or subscribed to the channel yet, go for it now. We're going to be releasing more graphic design styles dives and tutorials, so you want to make sure you get all the updates and you don't want to miss it. Okay, now back to the visual aspect of Normcore design. It doesn't rely heavily on photography or illustrations. If images are used, they tend to be extremely forward, so like product shots, ID stamps, editorial photography. More often than not, the design is just text, and that's the irony of it, or the simplicity and anti-design aspect of it. That's why fonts and layout do most of the work. In some cases, you see a little utilitarian graphics like arrows, checkboxes, or barcode-like elements. This reinforces the function vibe, but then it's more utilitarian than Normcore. Colors are also extremely restrained, basically just black, white, and grays. That's the standard, but sometimes you see a color used for the background or text. A bold red is common, or more muted tones like a muted sea green, for example. The lack of color emphasizes the simplicity and plainness of the style. It's not supposed to be colorful or particularly harmonious, and the text and layout are meant to stand out on their own. In a sea of colorful, highly branded products, a plain black and white label suddenly feels fresh. That's part of why Normcore works. It cuts through the noise by being almost aggressively quiet. So those are the building blocks. How is it actually used? Let's look at 4 scenarios. One of the biggest use cases is in UI design. Normcore design translates really well to cool, basic interfaces. Think of websites or apps that use tons of white space, black text, and minimal navigation. The result is something that feels timeless, clean, and functional without screaming for attention. It's good for editorial-style websites, tech startups, and even portfolios where the content is the start. The design steps back so the experience feels effortless. Another great use case is in magazine spreads or editorial layouts. Normcore design, with its stripped-down fonts and layouts, works beautifully for text-heavy designs. It lets the words take center stage, which is perfect for essays, interviews, or long-form content. Instead of distracting with visuals, the design frames the text in a way that feels modern and edgy. You see a lot of indie magazines adopting this because it gives them credibility and sophistication without being overly polished. Print-on-demand products like posters and apparel are also a natural fit. Normcore simplicity gives off an edgy, rebellious vibe. A shirt that just says "No" in Helvetica or a poster that looks like a receipt suddenly feels like a fashion statement. It's minimal but bold, and it taps into that sense of irony that audiences love right now. Because the designs are so straightforward, they also print really well. You just don't have to deal with complicated colors or images and worry much about how it will look once printed. Product packaging is another area where Normcore really shines. Brands aiming for a luxury but minimal vibe often lean into it. Think of skincare or lifestyle products that use simple text, monochrome colors, plain ingredient list as the design. On a bathroom shelf that looks clean and sophisticated compared to products with flashy labels or tacky illustrations. It's just the 100% opposite of brands that go overboard with over-designed packaging. And this connects to why Normcore design appeals to younger audiences in general. In a world of constant branding, advertising, and visual clutter, Normcore is fresh. It's authentic by being plain. It's edgy by being boring, and it stands out by leaning into the fact that it's so plain. Now, if you've been watching our channel, you may have seen our video on utilitarian design. Normcore shares a lot with it, like plain fonts, functional layouts, minimal colors, but there's a difference. Normcore is more playful in its plainness. It's almost ironic. It takes the same stripped back tools, but uses them in a way that feels more relaxed, more cultural. If you want to learn more about utilitarian design and how it's different, I definitely recommend watching it next, and I'll link it down below. So I'd love to know what you think about Normcore. Would you ever actually use this style, or do you think it's just too plain to be considered good design? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to try this style yourself, you can do it so easily in Kittl. You find all the fonts you need, like the ones I showed you earlier. Just experiment with the layout, and if you're designed for POD, you can create mockups directly in the editor like I showed you earlier as well. And before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this design breakdowns. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!